So this will be as we've imported your database, this training, and we'll come back and cover some of these pieces again because it'll make a little bit more sense when your members are actually in here. But throughout today, I'm basically just going to show you the basics on how to search your members, what their profiles mean, because all their information is organized in a specific way. And so I just want you to feel comfortable knowing where all of their information is and how to find it, how to search it, and then just going over some general basic account settings. And now it's been a little while since we visited your account settings, so if I'm missing anything or if anything's incorrect, it's a really easy fix. So just let me know. This is a great touch base point also, just to make sure everything looks the way it should. Okay?
Okay, sure.
Awesome. So to get started, this is just our home page. So anytime you want to come back to this home page, you would just select this home icon in the top left-hand corner. And this just brings you right to our home page. It's comprised of 3 different dashboards. So the first dashboard is the membership roster and new members in the last 90 days. So that's what you see here on the left and then here on the right. As I add all of your members and member types in here, all of your member types will be listed just like Forest Product Companies and Forest Product Company member. You'll have all of your member types listed. You'll be able to scroll through all of those members when they're all listed here, and then you'll see how your members are broken up. So you'll see how many members are in each category. You'll also see how many are in their grace period, and then we'll also see how many are in their lapsed. So when they're active and they're up to date with their dues, they're going to be in this active category. Once they've passed that expiration date, depending on what grace period we set up for them, they'll jump into a grace period column, which will show up in here once we add that.
Okay.
And then if they still haven't paid their dues, they're going to jump over into the lapsed column. So that just kind of gives you a quick picture of where your members are with payment.
Okay.
Something that I love about this is when these numbers are in here, you can select the number. So right now we only have the 3 admin, but we can click on these numbers and it'll take us to a profile list of those numbers in the system. And then from here, we can contact them, we can export this information, we can do just a ton of different items with the list that we can gather from those. So I'll show you more about what we can do in this area in just a bit.
Okay.
Then we have that new members in the last 90 days dashboard area, and that is just same thing, list out all of your members, but it's going to list out how many members have become new members in the last 90 days. I couldn't get my words out. I don't know why. So this is just a great area because MemberClicks knows how important it is to reiterate your benefits to those new members quickly, and frequently. Okay. Then we have our event dashboard. So I'm going to be creating forms in the system like your membership application and then any events that you have going on. And the event dashboard will pull the information from the forms I create and will list 3 past events over here on the left, including the date that they were held on and how many people attended.
Okay.
And then for upcoming expected event attendance, it's very similar. It's just going to show 3 upcoming events, the date that they were held on, and then once again how many people are registered thus far.
Okay.
This is just a snapshot of your events. We can look into this way more into detail, but it's just a great place to take a peek at, okay, well, these are the 3 events we just had. This is how many attended. These are the 3 events that are coming up, and this is how many have registered.
Okay.
Lastly, we have our financial dashboard, and so that consists of aged receivables and sales over time. Aged receivables will create a bar graph showing us how many invoices we have past due by how many days and how much money. While I'm kind of talking through this, I'm also going to bring up our MemberClicks example, that site that we looked at yesterday. It has some stuff populated from us testing around in there, and I think it's a little bit easier to understand when you can have a real look at how it'll look. So in this example, this shows you we have $200 worth of current, and I'm zoomed in a little bit too much. We have $200 worth of current dues that are current. So this green bar means they're in the clear. However, down here we have we have dues that are 91 days past due. And so it shows us that we have, in this case, a lot of invoices that are past due. So we would want to look into that and see what's going on with those invoices.
Right.
And then it gives us a summary of how much money is overdue. And then lastly, the sales over time. I'll be able to filter the sales over time by your revenue accounts. So notice I have this revenue account filter in the bottom right-hand corner. I can choose one of these different revenue accounts, such as membership dues, apply the filter, and then it's just going to change that graph depending on how much money has come in per month for that particular revenue account.
Okay.
Okay. Do you have any questions on any of these three dashboards?
I don't think so. Those are great.
Okay, awesome. Whoops. All right, great. So then the next item that we're going to peek at are your account settings. And so for that, I'm just going to work under Settings and Account Settings.
Okay.
And this is going to bring us really just some general settings in the system that you guys will probably not have to do much with. However, after you've graduated and you've moved over to the help team, they're going to ask for your account number. You don't have to memorize it or write it down. It's always right here for you under your account settings. So they'll ask you for that. Once we have all your members imported, looking at your profiles and prospects, you can see where you're at in regards to the level that you've purchased with us.
Okay.
I always say that if you're looking at this number and you're realizing that, on your home page you have a lot of lapsed members, you can move those lapsed members and put them into the prospect profile, so you haven't thrown away their profiles, you still have them, but that way you can make more room for members that can pay, so you're not having to level up for people that aren't paying with you, right? Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Mary Lou's joined us.
Oh, yay! Hey, Miss Mary Lou.
I'm sorry, I thought it was 2 o'clock and I ran to the post office to get this package and they just wouldn't keep up there.
We're all good.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
You're fine. We've recorded this and we've only just gone over one piece of our training, so you are in good shape. So the next item is going to be our time zone. You guys are in the Eastern time zone, so that's correct. Your membership year I have right now is starting on January 1st. Now I know that that can be different for one of your member types. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am, Hunt Club.
But only Hunt Club. The rest begin January 1st?
Yes, ma'am.
That's correct.
Okay, perfect, perfect. So I'm going to leave this at January 1st. And then we also have our member number. So a member number is something that our system is going to create for your members, and it'll help with me importing your members when I get there. However, if you don't want your members to know that this exists, we can turn it off so they don't even know that it's a thing. However, I like to turn it off in a different area. I always leave it on here because, once again, this helps me with my imports in the system. So that's what that is.
Okay.
The QuickBooks button just is, are you using QuickBooks? If so, we toggle it on. If no, we toggle it off. Now, notifications. So we have a lot of notifications that are going to be coming out from the system for dues renewals, notifications to remind your members to pay certain invoices. So we need some type of email address for your members to respond back to. So when they reply, they're not just replying to just like a general, like MemberClicks email where you guys aren't receiving it. So do you guys have an email address we could put in here?
Yeah, marilou@gfagrow.org.
Did I get that right?
GFA is in Forestry, Georgia Forestry.
Oh, I missed my, there we go.
Yep, that's it.
All right, great. And then the last item that we have is billing contact information, and this, oh, here, it was right here. And this is just for MemberClicks purposes. Okay. Do you guys have any questions on any of these account settings?
No, that looks pretty simple.
Okay, great. All right. So now we're going to dive into the financial piece, and we're just going to do a quick overview, but I'll definitely get with Jana whenever she's ready, and we can go a little bit more in depth. With the financial piece, we looked at this a little bit yesterday, so I'm just working under the financial tab and invoices, and this is going to bring us to that place where all of your invoices will be created. Oh, did you guys were y'all playing around in here?
I did earlier today.
That's awesome. So what did you find when you were playing around?
I was poking around. Okay. It looks familiar, so.
It looks pretty, did it seem like pretty simple?
Yeah, it did.
Okay, great, awesome. I love that. So this is perfect. So this is where you'll be able to see any of those invoices that have been created in the system. It's going to list them by the invoice number, the type, first and last name, the organization that that individual is with that they have in their profile, the status, which yours shows paid, the total amount for the invoice, the due date, and then we can view it. And I have a place where we can update your logo right here, so I can add that here in a second. And then this is just the way our invoices look. So we kind of walked through these yesterday and how if you do have an offline payment for an open invoice, you can come to the bottom. Do you all remember that Pay Now button that was down here?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
I'm going to go back to my MemberClicks test site just to help us kind of walk through some of these. So if I look at an open invoice, and I come on to the bottom, so that's that pay invoice. So that's where if we press pay invoice, we can apply the payment method, and we can even do the offline payment and apply that check number and submit. We can also create a credit invoice. We can void the invoice, and from here we can also download the invoice so that you can print it off for your members and send it to them if they would like a receipt. So this can act as a receipt as well. We can put comments down here, which I think is really helpful, especially if you void the invoice, to help you remember why you voided it, and then you can save those comments.
Okay.
Now this notes category here, there's a special place that you can put notes on your invoices, and I'm going to show you where that is in just a minute, so keep that in the back of your mind, okay?
Okay.
All right, great. So something else that's really neat is from an invoice, you can go to a member's profile. So I can go directly from this invoice to view the profile, and now it's going to take me to that individual member's profile. And once again, I'm going to walk you all through, you know, what all this is, because right now it just kind of is like, what is all this information? But I'll walk you through what all these different areas mean. I'm going back to my invoice list. You'll notice if somebody does want you to re-email their invoice for any reason, you can check it, and then you'll just press this email, and it's going to email to the email that they have within their profile. So if I just check one, it'll also give me the option, okay, do you want to send it to this particular email, or do you want to send it to a different email, or do you want to add another recipient? So you have some different options in sending those invoices out from here. And once again, if it's been paid, this is a great way to have this serve as a receipt as well. Of course, they can access all this information on the front end in their profile also. We can select any of these and create a PDF so that you can print it out and mail it. We can void any of these invoices. And then I also showed you all yesterday we can sort. So if I press open, it's just going to bring up all of the open invoices. And I can do the same thing with paid, pending, partial, and voided invoices. And then we can filter by invoice type as well. So if we just want to see ad hoc, or what I call admin invoices, you know, those miscellaneous invoices you might need to create, we can do that, or just by credit memos, just invoices for forms, or just for dues renewals. Okay. The next area would be invoice templates. So let me go back to y'all's side for that. And I'm going to zoom out just a smidge. So invoice templates, I've created this default one for you just to explain why these are necessary in the system. We have a lot of automatic notifications that we're going to send out to your members for dues renewal. Marilu, those are the ones that you created for when their dues is up for renewal, when they're in their grace period, and then when they've moved over into their lapsed period. So we can set up 4 notifications that will go out for each one of those different periods or statuses to remind them that they need to pay their dues. So for dues, we don't need to remind them anymore. You know, we've already got that set up. However, for things like donations or event registrations, we want to create additional automatic notifications that go out from the system to let them know that we do need that they do need to pay that invoice, because we don't have anywhere else that those are set up. So we can do that through use of an invoice template. So I have just created this default. So if we look at it, I can edit it. We can name our invoice template. So you may want one for, like I said, events, maybe one for donations. Then we can add how many days this invoice is due after the day it's been created, anywhere from 15 to 90 days. If you think back when I mentioned to remember that notes category, you can put that notes category, that's this footer information here, so this is what would create that notes field. And this can be really helpful, especially if you want to use it particularly for donations. So you can say, thank you so much for donating. You know, these are the benefits that we're gaining, or these, you know, whatever you kind of verbiage you want to add in here, you can do that to show up as notes on the invoice. Now we want to have at least one default invoice, because if you forget to set up the invoice template anywhere in the system, you still want an invoice to go out. So if you forget to set it up, this default invoice template will be the one that's created. And usually I leave it as just being the most basic, so I don't create these additional notifications to go out from it. However, you can, or you can just create new invoice templates with notifications. So this would be, we would turn this on if you would want an invoice, or I'm sorry, a notification to go out letting the member know that the invoice has been created. So we would edit the email, and then we would add verbiage in here saying, you know, an invoice has been created in your name. We can use our data merge tool at the bottom to list payment details. So an invoice has been created in your name on this date. This is the invoice number, and it'll auto-populate these fields from the invoice itself into this email that'll go to them. We can do the same thing with reminding them the invoice is due anywhere from 1 to 7 days before the invoice is due. So we would just toggle on and edit the invoice. Same thing with past due invoices. So we can turn this on and let them know your invoice is anywhere from 10 to 45 days past due. And lastly, we can set up some payment notification emails. So that's going to let them know that their invoice has been paid at that time. Once this payment notification email goes out, the rest of these emails will stop going out. So they're not going to continue to receive reminders to pay an invoice if they've already paid it. The system will know to stop those. Do invoice templates, does that make sense? That why we need these?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, great. We also have some invoice settings, and so this is where I can put in your logo. I've got your organization information, and this lets us know what our next invoice number is. So if you would, you know, happen to want to start at 1,000 or pick up where you've left off, then you can just put that number right down in here. I want to try to go ahead and, while we're here together, upload your logo, which I've got right in here. If I can do it fast enough, I'm just going to try to do that so you don't have to worry about it. There we go. This one. I'm going to download, okay. Upload your organization's logo. I'm going to look at my downloads. There's your logo, and I'm going to open it. And submit. Sometimes it doesn't show up for a couple minutes, but it should be in there at this time. Yeah, there it is. Yay.
Okay, cool.
So now this will show up on the right-hand corner of your invoice for us. Okay?
Okay.
And if you ever want to change that logo, this is where you could do that. Next, we have your revenue accounts. So this is where I would add in all those revenue accounts. And do I already have these from you ladies?
You should, but if not, I can do it again.
I definitely might. Document 1. I'll just look through, and if I don't, I'll ask you back for them. But I definitely might have them. I know that it was with the account settings document.
Yeah, like I gave it to you the beginning of October.
Okay, great.
I want to say between, I thought you needed it by like or something.
Yeah, you probably already did that, and I can just...
It's okay, I can do it again.
Active member list. Okay, I'll look and see. Okay, but this is where all those revenue accounts will be added into. If I wanted to add a new revenue account, I would just select Add New Revenue Account. I would name that revenue account. So we may have, you know, membership dues. And then I would put in a description, but we don't have to, that's optional. And then from there we'll toggle on if this is a dues revenue account, or I'll leave it toggled off if it's not for dues revenue. In this case, membership dues would be, so I would toggle this on and I would save. And so this is just how I'll add those revenue accounts that, if you remember yesterday when we can decide where we want our money filtered into, this will be that drop-down list of revenue accounts we can choose from. Okay, and I'll make sure that those are up to date and look good for us. And then lastly, we have our payment processor. Now you guys are using authorized.net, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. So I'll make sure that we have authorized.net added in an option as in here.
Okay, we paid the setup fee and everything, and then Andres did the, he got a code. I don't know if you're familiar.
Perfect.
Yeah, does that make sense? Everything was.
Yeah, so I'll just have to sometimes the auth.net doesn't show up in here for me, so I'm just going to have to figure out how I can get that to populate in, and then once it does, we'll be able to select it from this drop down, and then he'll put in, or you guys can put in the login and security key right in here to have that set up.
Yeah, okay, that's what he received. But that's correct from the bank, from BB&T, received some codes?
Yeah, that sounds exactly right. And that's kind of everything for the financial piece, really. We did look at, as far as pulling transactions, I can go to transactions, and this is where I can set the date that I want to pull a transaction from, and then we can pull different transaction types. So this is what I'll be going through with whoever wants to join that financial call that we'll have, and I'll teach them how they can do this. And then depending on whether you use, which I think you guys use QuickBooks Desktop, you'll pull an export to IIF file, and then you'll just be able to simply import it into QuickBooks. It's really easy. All right.
When Jana gets back into town, I'll get you two I'll share both your information and you two can talk.
That sounds perfect. Yeah, so then we can connect and figure out a date to try to go everything together. Awesome. All right. So do y'all have any questions over any of these financials?
No, ma'am. Seems pretty self-explanatory right this moment.
Seems fairly easy if we went over it a little bit yesterday.
Yeah, absolutely. We've definitely had some time to, to look in here. So a lot of this stuff is just kind of piecing it together and how it all works together. The next item I want to review are our attributes. So I'm going to work under database and attributes. And so I know we've talked a lot about it, but just to kind of talk back through what an attribute is. An attribute is just going to be anything that helps describe one of your members. So like my name's Adrienne, that's an attribute of who I am. And so we have 3 different kinds of attributes in our system. We have built-in attributes. So these are the items that you'll see right here on this page. Those are those things that we've seen across, the 1,600 associations we've worked with that we know you guys collect on your members. We have system attributes. A system attribute, we can't really do anything with them as far as they have to be there just the way they are. I mean, we can update the information in the field, but that's things like member type, member number, expiration date, things like that the system has to have. The last field of attributes is custom attributes, and those are going to be listed down here at the bottom. So I just added the tonnage attribute, but we can create as many custom attributes as you guys would like. And so once I get that revised database from you all, I'll look back through the database, and any column heading that you have that's filled out for your members that we don't already have in the system, I'll just create as a custom attribute in here.
Okay.
So I'm also going to look and look for some kind of like specialty items that you all may have. So if you've collected prefixes, middle names, or suffixes, I'll know that I'll need to come into my built-in attribute. I'll edit the settings, and then I'll just turn on, yes, we've collected prefixes, yes, we've collected suffixes, and yeah, we've collected middle names, not the name though, just the middle initial. And I can determine some different specifics of those pieces of information. So we can make kind of these little small edits or manipulations to all these built-in attributes. So same with like email address. Maybe you haven't only collected a home address. Maybe you've collected just like a main address, and then you also have a work, and then maybe a personal, maybe an employer. So we can add these different labels, and what this is going to do is allow us to gain up to 5. We can have up to 5 different email addresses on file for one member. So I can have up to 5 what we call labels per attribute. Does that make sense?
Oh, yes.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. Great. Now something to go ahead and note, after I've imported your database, any attribute that's tied to somebody's profile, so that means any of these fields that are filled out, I won't be able to delete anymore. So it'll be grayed out like this one. Any of the attributes we ended up not having information for will stay green, so we can delete them. But anytime you've tied information to an attribute, it's no longer deletable, and that's just to help save you from accidentally deleting some information at some point in time.
Okay. Adrian, we talked about, I think I sent this to you, let's double check, the tags. Remember, each member is going to have a tag to identify them?
Yeah, I absolutely do remember that. Now, the tags that we talked about, and I know it's been a little while, and we've kind of been sitting on this one past subject that we got figured out yesterday. So some of this stuff you may have to help me remember, but I remember us talking in detail about those different tags, and I think I mentioned that those would just be attributes.
Right. That's,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I would definitely put all of these in. That's exactly right.
Okay. So if you need me to resend it, just when I get back to my desk after this, just let me know and I can resend everything that you need.
Okay, yeah, you're fine. I've got everything in my folder for you. I just need to kind of revisit that, and now that I know that we're good to move forward in the direction that we're moving, I can get everything in here the way it needs to be.
Okay.
So I'm going to delete these out. All right. So then, same thing, physical address, we can have up to 5 different physical addresses, maybe their home, employer, stuff like that. And then we can also do the same thing with phone numbers. So we can collect up to 5 phone numbers for your members as well. Now we also have these custom attributes, which I mentioned. So I'm going to pull those all from the tags that you mentioned, Mary Lou, and then also from your database. And so I'll just be able to create new custom attributes. So the way that I'll do that, and you guys will probably never have to do this, but I always like to explain how I'm going to walk through things. I'll just go to custom attribute or add custom attribute. And I'll decide what that custom attribute will be. So we could do, just for example, we could do a birth date if we want to start collecting your members' birth dates. And then we would decide how we want to collect this information. Now, when we get to our forms training, this will make a lot more sense because this is how we're collecting information on your members, is by setting it up here. So the only time we're really going to use this, you'll see this reflected in forms, and then you'll also see it reflected in profiles. So we'll want to decide how we want to collect this information. So we have this drop down of different types of information we can collect. So we have country, and that's just going to provide a list of drop down countries. So maybe you want to ask, how many countries have you visited this year, or how many countries do you have affiliations with, or something like that. And they could check each of the countries. Date and time would work perfect for collecting a birth date. File would be perfect if you wanted them to upload their resume, or maybe other forestry associations they're working with, or something like that. An image would be great to ask them to upload a headshot or maybe a logo or something like that. Then we have a number field, and so that's going to ask for like maybe a member ID number or something else. Then we have a selection set, so that's going to ask for a different selection set of items, like you could say, how did you hear about us? And then we could say maybe newspaper or online or through a friend. And so here is where you can add different options. Something unique to this is we can also allow them to check multiple. So you'll notice this example here shows us how this is exactly how this field will show up on the form. So they can choose a radio button, which is what this is called, meaning they can only choose one. Then they can choose, once again, only a single selection, meaning one choice, drop-down menu, so it's going to drop down with your options. We have check boxes, but this is a multiple selection. So in this instance, they can choose multiple, two, or just one or all three. And then lastly, we can have a multiple selection select box, and they can choose multiple. Okay, and sorry I'm blabbing so much. Is this all making sense?
Yeah.
It'll make more sense when we get to forms. Right now, I'm just going to be looking at your database and those tags and just determining the best way for us to collect this information. And then when we get into forms, you may go, oh, well, you have this as a text box, but really we want it to be a drop-down. So then I would just go back into my attributes and change it to a selection set instead of having it as a text box. So it'll all kind of piece together. We also have state, so this is just a drop down of all the states. A text box is just going to be like, what's your title, your professional title or something like that, and they'll just fill in the text box. And then lastly, website. So if they have a personal website that you want to collect, then we can do that using this field. So we will re-review this once I have imported your database, and we'll just take a closer look at all of those tags and custom attributes I've created, and you all can let me know if I've missed anything or whatever it may be. Okay?
Okay.
Great. Now from here, I typically, there are a couple of pieces of homework I assign, but I'm going to hold off until the database is imported,
Okay.
and then I'll let you guys know. Probably on our next call, I'll re-review those pieces, and then either y'all can, and then you guys can attempt to complete those after that next training.
Okay.
I also like to review the member types, but I kind of want to hold off on that as well, just because I think it's difficult to visualize. Once again, you guys will never have to create a member type. I'm going to be doing that for you, and if down the road you ever need to add a new member type or make edits, then you can always call into the help team, or if we're still together, you can let me know and I can make those edits. Just because this is a big deal, right? So if I look at your forest product companies, this is where we determine whether they require approval or not before they can become a member. We're going to determine any custom attributes that apply to them. So we can take all those custom attributes that we create, and if we don't need all of them for every single member, then we'll just pick and choose what we want to show up on each of your member types profile. So for your regular members, we're not going to need items like that tonnage attribute, because it's not going to apply to them. That really only applies to those three particular member types, but it wouldn't apply to loggers or banks, because that it's not something that they're having to keep track of.
Mm-hmm.
Then we would set the member landing page. So what that means is that's where they're going to land after they've logged in. And we're going to go through what that looks like during our social community training, which is towards the end of it's the last training that we have of the 4. We'll determine what invoice template we want to use. So we talked about having to create those invoice templates. For the dues invoice template, we would want to use something that doesn't include any additional notifications, because I've already set those up somewhere else in here, and I'll show you that. We would set our payment processor, which would be authorize.net, and then we can filter our money that comes in for dues per member type if you guys do that. So some people may have a revenue account for landowners, and then wood dealers and heavy equipment dealers and consulting forestry firms and so on. And then some people, of course, just have a general dues account or revenue account. So we can filter the revenue account per member type if we need to. And then we would determine, are we date-based or are we expiration-based? I would determine our membership grace period. And then down at the bottom, we would put in, in this case, I would put in, for tonnage, we would put in that formula. So that's 0.1145. And we would be able to calculate that this way. Now, we're not going to do it this way. I don't want to say we're not going to do it this way. This still will be basically what's happening behind the scenes, but you guys will never see this part. It's just like a little glance into behind the scenes.
Okay.
But if this amount ever changed, so when we talked about you're going to go into your members' profiles and put in the tonnage that they, that you've calculated with how much money they've given you. Mm-hmm. When you do that, it's talking to the system back here. So if you ever have a change in the amount, you can come like that you're multiplying their tonnage by. This is where you can update the amount that you would change that by. Of course, once again, you can always call into our help team for that because it's a little, dealing with money, I always get a little nervous and want to make sure I'm doing it right. Okay, so like I said, this isn't something that you all, like I'm going to do all this for you, but I just like to show you what I do, and we'll go back through it once it's been completed. But do you understand like kind of the overall flow of things?
Yes, I believe so, yes.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Great. Okay, so then the last thing that I kind of want to peek at is our profile list, how to search, your profile list and all that kind of fun stuff. So we have our profile list icon up here in the top right-hand corner. Going into our profile list, this is where all of your members will pop in. So you've got my 2 test accounts in here. We can search all of our members, so everybody will fall in here once they've been imported, and you can use our advanced search function to search them. And this is where you can search by any attribute that's been created in the system. So that means any of the built-in attributes, any of the system attributes, and any of those custom attributes. So once all of those tags and custom attributes are imported in here, you'll be able to just search your members by any of those. And from there, you can contact them. You can also search by form submissions. So who's completed a form submission of, the renewal form or whatever it may be. It could be an event registration form. We have a little bit of event management, so if you all want to mark whether your members registered, did not register, canceled, attended, or no-showed to events, you can do that, and I'll show you where you can do that as we move through our trainings. And then you can search by those different statuses of events. And then lastly, we can search by active, deceased, grace, lapse, or pending statuses. And then we can also, if you ever delete profiles, you can always search those deleted profiles. They're not gone from the system forever. You can find them and you can restore them if you need to. We can also save searches. So if you all realize that you're using the same search all the time, you can just save that search. We would find it. So maybe we're searching all the time, tonnage, total, and then we could save that search and we would name it. So instead of having to come through this process every time, we would just use our manage save searches, and in the drop down, the save searches would show up.
Okay.
If we go into a member's profile, well, before I do that, once we have the list of members that we want to contact, we would tag their profiles. We can either just use our search to find those members, or we can just search them and find single members. And then we can use our actions button. So this is where we can delete or undelete those profiles. We can add or remove to groups. So I think I've talked about the differences between member types and groups, but just in case I haven't. We've talked about how you have the different member types in the system, and that's going to determine how much your members are paying in dues, and it's also going to determine how the length of their membership period. On the other hand, whenever a member type is created, the system automatically creates a group for it as well. The group is going to determine permissions in the system. So we're going to see these permissions pop up when we do content. We can create group specific content, meaning if you guys have some content that you want some members to see, some content you want other members to see, then we can determine that. Same with forms. If you need to ask specific questions from some of your members on a form that you don't need to ask others, we can permission who can see those fields. And then we can also create, like if you guys have a board of directors, or if you have some special individual members that need to see some special content, we can create a new group for them, put them in that group, and then they can see that special content with our permissions.
We like that.
Yeah.
Good. That's great to hear. So there's a lot of control in the system as to who can see what and who can do what and all that kind of stuff. We can change your member types, which I don't think you guys will be using that a lot, but if maybe you have some prospects that need to change into a particular member type, you can do it this way. Of course, they can also, there's a couple, they can take a membership application, of course, as well. You can change somebody's status. So if somebody's lapsed and you need to override the system for any reason to set them back to active, you can do that by changing their status. You can create an ad hoc invoice. So this is, I did show you this yesterday, and it's not the tool that we're going to use, but this is where you would create any miscellaneous invoices in the system for your members. We can export your members, and so that was just going to export it into an Excel document, and you can even decide what fields or columns you want to export with it. So if you only need the tonnage and the member name, then you would just check those, first and last name, then you would just check those 3 columns, export, and the export Excel document's only going to have those 3 columns in it. So you don't have to export information that you don't need. And then lastly, we can contact. So this is going to bring us over to our contact center, which Michelle saw me updating just a bit ago. And so from here, I'll have 3 different email templates, and it's under saved messages. I'm going to hit show. I'll have one more in here. We can load, and then you can write an email to your members in here. This is what we call our WYSIWYG editor, and I'm going to teach you guys about this on our content training, which will be the next one. You can write your email, and then from there, you can either send the email now or you can send it at a later date. And I talk to people all the time that are like, this is great. I can, write emails at 8 o'clock at night when I'm sitting at home, and I can have them sent out at 6 in the morning to make it look like I was up bright and early. So you can do stuff like that. I love our contact center because it's really just dynamic in the fact that after you hit schedule message, or if you send now, the message is going to sit in a queue for up to 5 minutes. So if you decide to change your mind and cancel the message, you have 5 minutes to change your mind and cancel it. It's also really great because if you send emails in bulk, so if you want to send them to all your members, the system is smart enough to know to send them out one at a time. That takes a little bit longer for your messages to go out, but it cuts down on how many wind up in spam folders.
Yeah, or blog our system here. Yeah, that's good.
Awesome. So this is just a little area. I have a welcome email that I'm going to add in here for you all. So when we get ready to launch, and I know you already have the verbiage that you like, but you can use our contact center to add that verbiage in. And we can add some elements like we can data merge their username in, and we can add a link as to where they can set their password. And so when they receive the email, it's really just going to be easy for them to navigate through, get to the website, update their profile, and start playing around in there. Okay.
Okay.
Great. And then going back to the profile list, now we've kind of gone through all those actions, so now we can take a peek at what a profile looks like. So this is a profile, and it consists, you notice, of a left box, a right box, and then we have the bottom box. So the left is all of those built-in attributes, things like email, phone, address. The right-hand box is all of those system attributes, things like expiration date, join date, last renewal date, member type, group, which is, their permissions, any extra permissions they may have. It also shows the last time the profile was modified and the last time the profile, or when the profile was created. You can view membership history. You can view their event attendance, so that's going to go with how many events that they've attended or registered for. And you can also view latest changes to attributes. So this is great because if something's looking kind of funky in the system and you're like, I don't know if this is right, you can look and see if maybe it was Michelle who updated it, if it was Mary Lou who updated it, or if it was that particular member who updated it. And it'll tell you who updated that information. Down in the profile, we have all of our built-in attributes, and then we'll have a summary of all of the custom attributes down here at the bottom. So all those profile custom attributes and tags will be in here. And I'm going to clear this. So if we wanted to make any edits, we would just edit, and then we can come through here and edit the profile. So you guys can do that on behalf of your members. We can use our Invoices tab and see any invoices that have ever been created in the system for them. So there's that invoice that you created earlier right in your profile. And you can also view the invoice from here. Oh yay, and now our logo shows up. We can look at submissions. This is going to show any form submission that they've created in the system. Committees and e-list. So as we continue through our trainings, if you want to set up some committees, or if you would like to set up an e-list, then we can do that. And this is going to show if that particular individual is part of either one of those.
We'll definitely
definitely be using those. Awesome.
Yes, ma'am.
The message history is going to be any automatic messages or notifications that have come out from the system, and it'll show you right in here. And then contact preferences on the front end, they'll have a place in their profile where they can set these contact preferences. This is also where they can unsubscribe from any, so your members can unsubscribe from any messages that come from your system. However, they will always receive dues renewal notifications, and they will always receive form confirmations.
Okay.
Even if they unsubscribe from everything else. And then lastly, we would just come back to attributes. And this is just going to bring us back to all those attributes in here. All right. Do y'all have any questions on the profile and everything that's in here?
No. Seems simple right now.
Okay, good, good. So just a couple other things. We can search our members. You know, I used this search bar yesterday. I love this. It's newly updated, like in the last month. We can search by first name, last name, organization, or email. If you search by organization, all you have to do is type in the first 3 letters of whatever you're searching for, and it's going to pull up a whole list of everybody that it applies to. Obviously, we can play around more with this when your members are in here, so it's just a great search tool. And then lastly, anytime you see this aqua color down here, you may see it in other places in the site, and that is just meaning that it's a type of help resource. So in this instance, our question mark, if we click on it, we can go to the ASA Help Center, which you ladies are ASAs, super admin. And from here, you're in our resource center. If you guys want to go ahead and start looking around in here, or you'll notice I'll send you links throughout our implementation as follow-up emails. I'm getting those links straight from our site. If you do want to play around in here, ignore everything that has the word classic. This is our previous product, and it looks completely different than what our product we're working in looks. So it'll just, you'll get there and you'll be like, what the heck is going on in here? Always make sure we're using the member clicks documentation. And then in here we have articles, and it's split up by website, online community, you know, stuff on the database, or emailing. So there's that contact center we just looked at. Forms, we'll get to forms training shortly. Member directories, if we want to set up some directories. And then at the bottom we also have all of these setup and how-to videos, which I just love. Okay?
Okay.
And that's all I got. Do y'all have any questions for me today at all?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, ladies. Thank you so much. Well, we've got the rest of our calls set up until our 4th training, so I went ahead and you all should have all the call-in credentials for that. Yes. And I'll just be continuing to update those items in our profile that I know I can move forward with, that I've kind of had in my file folder for us, so I'll just continue working through those. And I'll be sending a follow-up email shortly, and then other than that, I just look forward to our content training.
Sounds great.
Okay. All right. Well, let me know if you have any questions while reviewing that database, and if y'all have come across any questions at all, just reach out to me and we can walk through it, okay?
We sure will, Adrienne. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ladies, so much. I look forward to talking to you again soon. Y'all have a good afternoon and a good weekend.
You too. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye.